Welcome to Hudson Valley Disc Golf Podcast. This week we got at least one player from each of this past weekend's New York Team Challenge matches. From the Tower of Power, we got Kevin Kroencke and Evan. He'll be here shortly. We'll hear about their match at the Beasts of Burbine. From the Wilcox Windowmakers, we got Kristen McDonald to tell us about their match at CPS against the Roses or the Rosebuds or whatever the hell they're calling themselves this week. Jacob Dunbar's here from the North to recap their match with Alex and the other country clubbers of Chatham Hill. And of course, we got Corey for Jpark and Randy and Jasan from Minekill. Before we get to all that, we got some putting leagues to talk about. Mark Bryan posted about 9-pin, a great first week of the spring season with 81 players in attendance. It looks like the non-paying league. Sean Dollard had 17 points, so did Noodle Arm Brandon Klein. But your winner in the non-paid league, Caitlin Clay, had 18 points, won her a free flight. Over in the paid side, third place tie, 21 points. Josh Lee and Nick Cardone got $30. Kyle Moore came in second with 22 points, got 40. And Benji Farrell is your winner, 24 points, won $50. Congrats to all prize winners and especially to Jason Gorsage for the solo ace in the Brutal Cold. Remember, 9-Pin Cider now has their own stamped putters to purchase. Pick one up to show your support for the most beginner-friendly putting league in the area. Anybody here go that? I know Randy does, but anybody who's here?
Yeah, I do.
I didn't see your name on the list here.
Well, I was there last week. I'd rather not talk about it, and I definitely don't want to talk about tonight.
All right, that's fair. I must have cropped the page a little higher than where you were at. All right. Yeah, I mentioned Jay Gorsage. Yeah, looks like $58 for the ace spot. That's more than the winner got.
If you hit it, you hit it. It gets split between pro and am. So if, you have 17, 18 people in pro and 30 people in am, and only one person hits it, you get the whole shebang.
So Northway, I don't have anything for the most recent week, but Greg Hill did post an update through 3 weeks. Fourth place with 44 points, Miguel Thomas. Cody Miller and Jay O'Leary are tied for second at 45, but your leader through 3 weeks, Tyler Calzada.
I'm assuming none of us on the call had gone, but I know Greg had posted that he announced that they're using sponsorship by Tech Disc, and now they can simulate different holes for ace pots for ace throw off. So I know that there was talk of what hole they were going to choose to try to throw a virtual ace, but pretty nifty, pretty cool addition to the league.
What do you mean?
So I'm not sure exactly, but if I was to guess, they use a tech disc and you throw the tech disc and it gathers all the metrics and how you threw it, and then they're able to simulate that in a virtual setting to simulate the actual shot on the actual hole.
Tech Disc now has a app program subscription service where you can play different courses.
Oh, okay.
I was just looking into the possibility of buying one recently, and I was looking on their website, and I saw that.
Think of one of those golf simulation things.
Yeah, golf simulator.
A tech disc.
Exactly,
cool.
And that's what I was thinking, because we just have a place that just opened up here recently and being run by Druthers, and they have 2 golf simulators in it. So I was like,
Nice.
Can we do a disc golf simulator one night?
Yeah. We'll get more information, I'm sure, as people get more familiar with it. Jamin usually goes, so I'm sure he'll see it at some point. You don't go to that one, do you, Corey?
I went once last year. It's just a long drive. Not so much to get there, but on the way back to drive down from Southland Falls or whatever at
And it's probably dark both ways, too. This time of
yeah.
year. Kristen, you still doing putting league?
Yeah, we have Beacon on Wednesdays outdoors, which is super cold, but very fun still. And Wedge is actually doing theirs on Thursday this year. So it's fun. We've got a full week of activity with putting. So it's good.
Do you know when Wedge starts?
They just started last week on Thursdays. They had 2 in 2024 in December that they had on Fridays that they said was pretty packed because it was a Friday for those couple. So we had week 3 was last week and week 4 will be this week. I think Chris Jordan just posted a recap on that. It might have been today or yesterday, something like that.
You said 2024, and I thought you meant 2023, 2024, winter season. Wow, they only had 2 last year and they're off to a hot start this year.
Yeah, no, I had to catch myself when I was when did they have that? Health?
I know how calendars work.
Yeah, no, they had it. It was around Christmas and New Year's, so they didn't do it right at the end of the month. I think it was the first 2 weeks of December. They had it on Fridays, which was really cool. And then being that the holidays were on Wednesdays, we actually moved it from Beacon we didn't do it Wednesdays, we did it Fridays those weeks. So we were able to kind of like fill in those weeks and then Wedge picked back up. So now it's cool. We have the 2 weeks in a row. Wedge is a little far for us. It's like an hour and 15, but if we're not doing anything, we'll just go. Captain Lawrence is great too. They treat us really well there.
Yeah, he posted Winter Putting League, Captain Lawrence. So he has all 3 weeks that they've done. So week 1, pro was Sal Orsiano and Tyler Sackett in the AM side. Week 2, Chris Lucier won the pro, and he must have been the only one there, but Will Byrne somehow won the amateur division. Week 3, Chris Lucier again won pro, and I can't read. Who's the amateur winner? I can't see that clearly.
Let's go.
Kristen McDonald, your AM winner.
It's so much easier to put inside than in the cold. My scores from Wednesday, from my scores to Thursdays, it was incredible. It was great.
Yeah, because even though it's in the pavilion, right? So wind and cold still affect everything.
Yeah, and this week it was pretty bitter, the last week. Zach hung tarps up, so we have the wind situation pretty contained, but it was pretty wild last week, so there was no stopping the weird gusts that would catch a putter on the way. But it's the same sort of format. We have the 5 baskets set up, and it's 1 point for the first basket. You shoot 5 times, 2 points for the second, and so on. 2 marksman baskets. You go around 3 times. It's cool. It's kind of funny to just see how I don't think I even shot 100 at the Beacon one on Wednesday, and I shot a 159 on Thursday. So nice. Big difference. I'm trying to find an indoor location for Beacon. I was talking to Liquid Fables, so that might be a thing. If not, I have a couple other leads on locations. So stay tuned. It might get a lot better for that league, at least. We still get a ton of people, between like maybe 15 and 20 people a week, I would say, coming through. So cold's not keeping people away, at least.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Chris says that the Wedge League, it's 7-week season, takes your top 4 or 5 weeks scored, pro and am, top 8 in the 2 divisions make it to the final. They got the January 16th, 23rd, and 30th, February 6th, and then the finals on the 13th. Top 8 in the 2 divisions make it to the finals, 3 rounds, single elimination head-to-head, seeding based on scores, 1 plays 8, etc. All right.
I'm glad you read all that. I didn't read that far down into the post. That's really cool. I like the finals idea.
Yeah, anything different. We probably don't have time for it tonight, but Ryan messaged me about, and Jason, you probably know about this, the feedback survey for the Empire Open.
Yeah, I filled that out.
I mean, that sounds like a good topic, how to get more people involved. So just ruminate on that, and we'll talk about that in the future. Because I don't think that's one thing that you just say, hey, what are the good ideas for it? I think, you want to think about it. Plus, we ain't got time for that shit.
I don't know. Like, I did fill it out. I had some ideas. I'd have to actually remember what they were. I did give a little bit of thought.
Yeah. So maybe next week or something like that. There was a new putting league, Melvin Throws Putting League. Evan, you played there?
I did go. That was, what was that, Tuesday, right, Corey?
Yep, last Tuesday.
That was the first night they had it. Went and checked that out. It was pretty cool at the American Legion up to Rensselaer.
How far is that for you, Corey? That sounds pretty close, right?
It's probably about 25 minutes. I went after work, so it was like 8-minute drive.
Oh, okay. How far for you, Evan?
Probably a little closer coming from Troy, so probably 15 minutes or just a little less.
Yeah, I'm sure there's people listening that know what you mean by that. I have no reference.
Right, so you want to get on 787.
Oh, okay,
okay. I was going south, the traffic was going north, so, relatable.
So what's a quick rundown of how's it work? How's it go? That kind of thing.
This was cool because it was different. Other putting leagues are kind of like stations set up, trick shots, or I think somebody referred to it even as mini golf. This was more of competition. So they were set up in one of the side rooms at the Legion. The baskets were 28 feet apart. We got random draw partners, and you would stand with your opponent across from your partner and the other opponent. So you take turns. You get 2 putts each round. If you get 1 in, that's a point. If you got both in, that's 3 points. First team to 21. So people were comparing it to cornhole or horseshoes. It was cool because, the team aspect and, the competitive double elimination. It was a good group turnout. 16 people, I think, turned out, which made for a perfect bracket. So it was good.
I was going to say, did he kick out like the 17th person? No. We got it perfect now. You can't jump in.
There was 1 or 2 people there that were like, I'll play if, it's an odd number or something like that.
Yeah, Jackie was there, didn't play. Ox was running it. He didn't.
So you said 16 people? How many rounds do you have to go through?
Well, it was double elimination. So if you lost twice, you were out, which I didn't find that out until championship match because Kyle Hirsch was my partner. We went undefeated until we ran up against Corey and Chad, but I don't want to get ahead of myself there.
So your partner was Kyle and Corey, you had Chad?
Yep, kind of OP. To answer your question, though, 7 matches is what we had to play.
How long do each of them take? About?
I would say 10-ish minutes.
Okay.
10, 15 minutes. Kind of depends how well you're putting, I guess.
Yeah, some quicker than others.
A couple rounds, you might both airball the putt, so you're not getting any points. But yeah, no, they didn't seem too long.
Yeah, that's how my night started, was a lot of air balls. Kyle making a lot of 3-point rounds. I was worried I wasn't going to get any putts, but once I got one, they started coming. The nice thing about the matchups was that Mark had it running with the bracket live up on TVs around the room. So you could just kind of take a glance, see who was playing, what the scores were. It was really cool. I had a lot of fun doing it.
It has an overall leaderboard on Disc Golf Scene. Do these points carry over? Is that the plan, or is this just because it's on Disc Golf Scene?
I think they do get carried over. I'm not exactly sure how the season is set up, but
I thought I saw in the payout stuff that there might be $1 or something going towards finals at the end of it. So,
okay, there you go. Yeah, I wasn't
maybe
sure.
that's what the points are for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he had a post on Discap that kind of had, I think Jackie was kind of posting, There's a picture of like the bracket and final match and stuff. But of the 16 people, Adam Nelson and Jason Gorsage were a team. Travis Bashore came up and he played with Ryan Clare. There was a Joe card with Joe Deskulka and Joe Kowalik, a.k.a. Viking Joe. Hudson Valley Disc Golf Podcast correspondent Joe Karen was with Gene Gierka. Evan and Kyle. Lisa Lundquist played with Matt H., which I'm not sure what his last name is. And like I said, myself and Chad and Randy and Robbie Hendricks.
Hess.
The Hess truck's back, and they're better than us.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, Kyle and I played Lisa and Matt first. That one went pretty quickly. We played Chad and Corey and beat them.
Sent our ass to the loser's bracket.
We did send you to the loser's bracket early. We beat Jason and was he with Adam?
Adam Nelson, yeah.
Yeah. And 28 feet is kind of it was a good distance because for me, that's definitely not a gimme any further. And I want to throw my glitch on a little backhand. So once I kind of got in the groove, it was fun and it felt good. But then we got to the end, we kind of got cold because we were waiting for our matchup, who was going to come out of the loser's bracket, which ended up being Corey and Chad. And you guys beat us pretty well in that first finals match.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they both ended the same. It was a close match, and basically I had to make both putts to not give you guys a chance because there's no rebuttal. So whoever gets 21 first is the winner. So there's an advantage to going first in the match. If the score is 20-19, you have 19. If you don't get those 2 putts to get 3 points, then you give the other guys a chance to just make 1 putt for the win. So yeah, after playing our first match and winning and then losing to Kyle and Evan, we had to play basically 6 more matches to decide the overall winner, which myself and Chad were able to take down Evan and Kyle.
Yeah, we had not lost, so we were in the finals match. They had to beat us back to back.
Yep.
And it came down right to the end. I had to make a putt in Corey's face, and I could have beat him. And they were 2 close misses. And then Corey had to make both of his, which he did. It was well done. Exciting finish.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It was a fun first night.
You guys both going again?
TBD.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. I'd really like to. I'm not sure the schedule tomorrow night, but if possible, I'm going to try and make it out because it was a good time.
Yeah, I'm going to try as well. I might just go into work later, so I'll stay later and not have to burn so much time between work and the putting league start time.
There's a Chick-fil-A nearby, right?
Shit. Yeah, maybe there is. Yeah.
Just saying.
So successful first week for Melbourne Throws Putting League. And you both beat Randy, so that's something too.
Yeah, we did. Actually, no, they didn't beat Randy. Me and Chad beat Randy and Robbie twice. We played them once in the beginning to send them to the loser's bracket, and then we got sent to the loser's bracket and had to play them again in the loser's bracket.
Anything else on any of the putting leagues? Any other putting leagues that we know of that we're not talking about? All right. One other thing before we get to New York Team Challenge. Actually, Kristen and I both played. They did the tag release for Skylands, their January monthly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it because it was silver, and that is my jam.
Me too.
As the kids say. Typically, and I probably told you guys about it, I'll play the first 11 or 12 holes. I'll play it forehand, and then I'll play it backhand. So I'm pretty familiar with those holes. I mean, I'm familiar with them all, but recently those are the ones that I'm most familiar with. So, of course, I had to start on 11 and play all the ones I don't know. I know, but I don't know if I'm capable of throwing them. How was your round, Kristen?
Not too bad. Not as good as I would have liked. A few putts that got left out there just because I had a little bit of the yips, I think, just after having a long day Saturday. But it was a lot of fun. I had great card mates. I got to play with Dulcie, Richard Clapp, and Matt Kane. And it was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. Pretty quick round, I think. I felt like it warmed up. It wasn't cold. It was cold to start when we were all kind of standing there. But once we got started, I was like, ooh, okay, got to take the gloves off. Got to take the gaiter off. I have leg warmers because I just get so cold. I took the leg warmers off. So I was shedding layers throughout the whole round. But other than that, it was an absolutely gorgeous day. We were surprised at how many people were there for how cold it was supposed to be. So I thought that was great. The turnout was awesome. And those tags are really cool. I think Brian did a really awesome job picking those out and getting those made up for the club.
Yeah, they're reminiscent of Monopoly money.
Yeah, the little Monopoly money. And then they had the women's tags. They have these it's like Pepto-Bismol pink. It's they're really nice. They have the women's tags down there now, and that'll be cool. And, Shayna was down there. She's down from the Port Club. So hopefully, we'll get more women with tags. I know Stacy probably would have been there. I heard she wasn't feeling well, but I know, she'll be around, and hopefully we'll get more women down there. They're great courses. So, and it's cool. I didn't realize that their monthly will rotate. So it'll be Oasis, Gaw, Buzzies. It'll be a little bit different each time. So that's pretty neat too.
And they do a season-long thing, right? So this is like the first one?
Yeah. I think that'll be something, if we're free, I don't see why we wouldn't try to make those a little bit more often. Everybody down there, that club is really great. All those people are pretty good people.
Just pretty good, or?
Just pretty good.
No.
I don't want to, I don't know all of them really well. But from the people that I do know, they're all really a great group of guys and gals.
You played in the C pool, tied for 5th place.
Yes.
With Randy Rogers, Matthew Kane, Richard Clapp, and Calder Colmorgan. Mm-hmm. Shayna, who you mentioned, DeSapio, she came in 4th place. Tony Forder in 3rd place. George Henry came in 2nd place, another Port Jervis guy. Mm-hmm. And Joe Balistreri is your winner, +3 in the C pool.
Woo.
I actually did okay. I was +3 after 5 holes, and I ended up at +4. So I'm not too upset about that. I had 1 birdie. Alex, what hole did I birdie?
I'm going to go with 18 silver to silver.
Absolutely. That's not why I took the picture. I don't know if you saw any, Kristen, on hole 18 silver from the tournament. When was that, Alex, that tournament?
Would have had to been pro championships at Warwick back in July or whatever it was.
Oh my God. Yeah. July or August.
His whole sponsorship was on there. So I took a picture of it after I threw my drive, which I just threw that Brinster Destroyer and it hit right by the trees there in the middle. And then it just kept skipping forward. And I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
But really my shot of the day was hole 2.
Mm-hmm.
On the later holes, I'd been throwing that Destroyer, and I was like, well, this is way too much for a Destroyer, so let me go back to my T-Bird, because I usually throw that, and hopefully if I split those first 2 trees, I can get a par.
Yeah.
I threw that T-Bird, and it bounced over a car in the parking lot.
Oh, my God.
I had never reached a basket before, and it reached the parking lot.
Sheesh. That's great. Yeah, that's a drive.
Obviously, it's downhill, and a lot of things have to get missed, but I just didn't even think that was a possibility.
Yeah. 2 is a hole that I would have wanted back. I ended up, my disc turned over a little bit too much and then hit a tree early, had a great backhand out of it that hit that little stump trying to get out of that gap. The last stump that's basically right in the middle there, and then went to putt it, which then my putter decided to roll down the hill. So it went into a 5. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll take my medicine. We'll keep going on. But it kind of caught me on the bogey train a little bit after that. So,
well, my first thought is, okay, it sucks. I went across the street, but yeah, I get to take it back at the grass. Well, I plunked my my approach. I hit the corner of the hill, and I ended up taking a 5 anyway.
Ugh.
I was up 3, got back down to 2, and then that's where my 4 came from, and then I just parred out from there. So I don't even feel bad about that, though, because I'm like, that was crazy that I got through all that shit.
You strong-armed it down the fairway. Yeah, no, that's incredible. That's a great drive from there.
Yeah, I just can't ever do it again. Even if I wanted to, I'm afraid of throwing that disc anymore, because now I know, not that 9 times out of 10 I play there, there's no cars over there, but I still don't want to throw it OB.
Yeah.
I played with Randy Rogers, Tim Florence, and Tibor Peleni. Mm-hmm. So tied for 4th at even par, we got Billy Hove, Mike Warner, and Leighton Brinster. This is in the B pool. Tied for 2nd, Steve Singley and Jeff Levin, 33. And Ahmed Hamda won it at -4. In the A pool, Tyler Ferrati came in 5th place, -4. 3-way tie at 2nd at -5. Jacob Driscoll, Taylor DeRuvo, and Steve Brinster. at -5, and Craig Cutler won it at -12.
Yeah, he ran with it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to say that score again, because I didn't realize that he took it by 7 strokes. That's crazy.
Yeah, pretty big gap.
Looks like Skylands will be doing those. We'll follow them through the year.
Yeah, it was fun. Like I said, it was a pretty quick round, and those one-rounders they're just, on a Sunday, that's just fun, you know?
Yeah, the thing that got me there was that it was silver.
Mm-hmm.
Did you say, I think the Woods is going to be the next month?
Yes. Yep, next month is at Wolf Woods.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I honestly, for as much as I play down there, I don't think I've ever actually played Wolf Woods.
No,
So,
it's fun.
yeah.
I haven't been there in a bit, but yeah, I like it. It's definitely got more of a silver vibe than most of it, but it's got some long holes too.
Yeah.
I think the front 9 is much shorter than the back 9, if I remember correctly, and if it hasn't changed much.
Yeah, I love Oasis. I love how quirky Oasis is.
Actually, Shayna and George Henry, after the round, we went over and played Oasis.
Yeah, they were trying to get us to come, and I was like, I would honestly love to, but one, I'm exhausted. I am just almost a shell of a human now. But we had to go grocery shopping and get the home for the dog and everything. So, but otherwise, we probably would have. Oasis is great.
Yeah, that's crazy that I haven't been there in a couple years, and they've got that building up there. That's insane.
Oh yeah, Dan is working on its Fence Road Farm Brewery. Hopefully that'll be open by spring, summer, and he's got big plans. He's going to have a pro shop there. They have those big containers there that they have like vegetables growing in. I think that's super cool. They're going to like use the vegetables from the farm to use in the restaurant that's going to be there for the brewery. He's planning on having indoor putting league, from what he said on my post about finding an indoor space the other day.
Definitely got the room in that place.
Yeah, so I mean it's going to be great. And then in the pro shop, he's going to have Delicious in there, which is going to be awesome. Get a lot of dyes and stuff that Ivan's doing, and it's going to be a really cool facility and a really cool property over there, even better than what it is now.
What's Ivan's last name?
Not Marmota.
Yeah.
Ivan Pantier. I can never say his name properly, so if I butcher it, I'm so sorry, Ivan. Pantier?
All right. Anything not New York Team Challenge related?
If anybody is free at the end of the month, the Disc Golf Disc East Expo is going to be at Boxborough, Massachusetts. I think that's the 25th and 26th.
Correct.
At the Boxborough Regency, and Delicious is going to be there. We're going to be having a raffle for some really cool dies that Ivan's been working on. 978 is going to be there. Thought Space is going to be there. Ben Kenny has a crazy, crazy lineup of vendors coming.
Yeah. Jesse from Trash Pen is going to be there, not to vend or anything. He's just going to be there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get there to actually meet him finally.
Anybody else here going?
Nope.
I think Jamin went last year, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes again.
Yeah, I'm planning on going for day 2 because day 1 is the 25th, which is the same day as our match against the Maple Hill Diamonds. So
Where's that?
that's at home, luckily enough. But yeah, just heading right back out to Massachusetts right after anyway.
Yeah, it'll be cool. We're staying right at the hotel there this time. Last year we stayed with my friend Emily, and it was awesome. But we were like, you know what? If we could get somebody to watch the dog, then we could stay on property and it'll be a good time. And we have a few other people from the team going. And I know that some of the Northeast women's group is going to be doing like a sleepover the one night there, which is super, super cool. I think NIFA just got a table there, a vending table. So it's going to be a really good time. I'm excited. It was a blast last year. I think this year will be even better.
I drove out last year, the second day with Camel Case Corey, actually. It was a blast.
Oh, you drove up in the snow.
Yeah, we drove up in the snow.
Woo!
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was a wild trip home trying to get back in one piece. Ugh, that was pretty rough weather.
All right. So New York Team Challenge. Randy, look at that timing, Randy. It's immaculate. Corey, before we start anything, before this past weekend, what was your team's record?
Undefeated.
So you were 3-0. Okay, I had you as 2-1.
I don't know if I noticed, but apparently no one else noticed either. No one told me.
Other than you, who else that was on here last week would have cared? And the only time it was noticeable was because I was like, oh, Windowmakers and Roses are 3-0, and Tower Power and Beasts of Burbine are 1-2, and North and they're 0-4. And you guys, I said, had you and the Whips both 2-1. Because I was literally writing the records while we were talking because I just wanted to have something else to talk about, to mention, and I just mistransposed them. I just wanted to double check, make sure that I was wrong, and I verified that. So thank you, Corey. You're very helpful. But we're not starting at your match. Randy's got to catch his breath, you know. He's just doing all that putting. He's tired. I would like to start at the 0-4 Chatham Hill Country Club, visiting the 0-4 the North. My first question, Jacob, do you guys mind being just called the North? It's the North at Albatross Creek, right? Do you like the North? What's the good nickname for your guys' team?
Yeah, the North is fine.
Okay.
That's usually what we call ourselves. Full thing's a mouthful, so.
I'm just double checking.
Yeah, I think our official team name, I would say, is more the North.
Okay, I dig it. All right, so it looks like Alex, Evan, Jason, Jamin, Randy, and Caitlin Clay all picked Chatham Hill, while Jacob and Corey picked the North. Who wants to start, Jacob or Alex? Thumb wrestle for dibs.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, no preference.
As far as matches go, I think matchups themselves went pretty well. A lot of the Chatham folks had a hard time getting all the way up to our neck of the woods on time, which, no fault of their own, really. The weather was pretty bad that morning. Highways were a bit iffy. So we got off started a little later than expected, but still kept things on track to finish with, daylight and all that. Yeah, for round one, I don't know. I think we did a pretty decent job of doing our matchups. Again, our women have been some of the strongest players on our team, and we did a good job getting those matches set up so that they would play in our favor. So Amanda and Ashley took down their wins. Sarah was pretty close with hers. Across the board otherwise, again, the Conines did a pretty good job of cleaning up their matches. Pretty close matches overall, both ways. There's a few kind of exceptions, but I think overall I was happy with how things went down. For my match, unfortunately resulted in no singles points for me. Or actually, I guess I don't think I got any points for our team at home at all throughout the 3 matches in a row. So although a lot of my singles matches have been really, really close, so I guess I'll spoil the ending. I was matched against Kevin Wynn. I feel like I tend to give myself a hard time, especially because I've, not scored any points for some of these matchups, but sometimes it's just tough. I think in this particular case, I was thrown as a match rather than throwing myself out, but I realized I tended to throw myself out because I was willing to put myself out to be matched against versus the other way around. So that often probably led to some tougher matchups or harder or closer matchups than getting, some sort of easy win or whatever. And
there's nothing wrong with being the Corey on your team where they put you up against one of the tougher competitors. Corey had a rough time last year with that. So.
Yeah, it just resulted in a lot of these home matches just being really, really close. So I was on a card against Kevin, and also on our card was Colin Murphy against Kenji Klein, which is fun. I've played with Kenji once before. He's always fun to have around on a card.
Alex, has Kenji been on your team this whole year, or is this the first time I'm seeing his name and I just don't pay attention?
It's the second match we've played with him.
Okay.
Not the whole year, but, not new this time.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't know you guys had him on your roster before, but it was fun to see his name pop up.
But you don't have Brandon Klein, do you?
No Brandon.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, good.
Yeah, otherwise immediate enemy team now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For the most part, it was a pretty unglamorous round for our singles match. Given that we'd just gotten like a couple inches of snow just that morning and it was kind of actively snowing while we were playing, it was hard to keep everything kind of dry a little bit. It was hard to keep your kind of confidence taking your tee shots. I think the concrete pads generally help, and we got them shoveled and brushed off for the most part, but just kind of that constant snow and, as a first year tee pad, so some of the areas around the tee pads are a little dicey in some ways, maybe just like small drop offs off the front, things like that. So I think some of those cases led to both Kevin and I having some questionable tee shots here and there. I think the card as a whole was even through maybe like something like 12 or 13 holes. Like, not that we just kept going, like no points were scored. It just kept going back and forth a bunch. So, I would shank a shot and then Kevin would shank a shot. We just kind of give each other points back and forth. Eventually, Kenji got a few ahead on Colin. Just a few less, I think, mistakes coming down the stretch. And then for Kevin and I, so I feel like I tend to be a little lazy, and also just because I'm having to coordinate everything and make sure all the spread stuff is set up to be ready by lunchtime. I usually start myself on a pretty close hole, so I start on hole 3. The unfortunate thing about that is that it means I end on holes 1 and 2 typically if the match is going to go all the way to the end. And those holes can be kind of hard to catch up, I guess. They're not strong holes for me personally.
Not big score separator type holes?
Yeah, especially hole 2. Hole 2 is kind of like most of the time you should get a birdie on it, or you should at least have like a pretty good look at it. It's a water carry, but it's, only 250. And, if you have the power to kind of get it across the pond, you're looking at circle 1 typically. Hole 1 can be a little trickier. For whatever reason, I can't figure out that shot and get it down consistently. But anyways, as we were closing in on the end of our match, hole 17, we both had decent tee shots, I believe. Kevin kind of got up and down for a par, and I was looking at like a 40-footer, maybe 45. It was one of those like putts that you're just kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it because I feel like it happens so rarely for me, but one of those 1 in like 50 or 1 in 100 where you're just kind of like looking at the basket from that distance and like it just feels like it's so doable. And I make this really long putt, or at least it felt like I made it or seemed like I made it, and it kind of caught like high right chains, fell down through several sets of them. And I'm not usually one to like complain or have like really strong preferences on types of baskets, but because this is a new course and we're still using temp baskets, and in this particular case, this basket I think had been jostled around a bit, so it was actually leaning. What felt like, an almost certain make, I don't know, it felt like the disc was in the basket for like 3 whole seconds, and then it kind of did the thing where it lands on its head on the rim of the cage itself and then just like barely toppled out because it was leaning slightly, maybe like 10 degrees or whatever to that side. So I don't know. Obviously it was a putt that I missed that felt like really bad because it was kind of coming down the stretch, but all of us just stood there for a second and were like kind of dumbfounded because it was weird. So I think we were even at that point, so that would have put me up 1. We get to hole 18, which is an island hole. He makes it and I don't, so that puts him 1 up in realities. And then like I was saying, 1 and 2 aren't really enough for me to come back. But for hole 1, Kevin has a pretty good tee shot. I clip a tree and kind of ends in the there's like a little ditch that goes towards a creek that doesn't play OB. I managed to scramble a decent shot and end up about 15 feet away or so. And he's lined up with like a 20-25 footer to win the match, basically guarantee it. And he ends up missing it. Then I make my putt. So we go to the last hole with him 1 up still. He puts it to maybe 25 feet and I put it to maybe 20. So he has to go first to basically guarantee the win, and he misses it again. So that I feel like the story of the day was like, I kept messing up and Kevin kept messing up, but I feel like in this case it was him opening the door for me, and then of course I just one mistake too many, couldn't really walk through it, so I ended up caging the putt and was close to pushing the round and at least getting a half point on my at-home season scoreboard, but unfortunately couldn't get that one. It was a weird round for putting, actually a weird day for putting, and I'll get to that in a second with the doubles stuff. But I felt like I could make, these weird 40-footers or these like 25-footers, but around a tree and basically putting league style stuff. But I couldn't make anything just like really normal, 25-footers looking straight at the basket open.
So, Alex, let's go back to matchups for a second. You're playing this course blind, right? Had you not played around at this course up to this point? So how did that go into considering matchup?
So I didn't know a lot about the course. I had looked at UDisc. I had looked at just like distances and, general shape of things. And I knew generally that it was more of a technical course, woods golf as opposed to open golf. But I didn't know any specifics. Like it was tough to tell if holes were, forehand friendly or lefty friendly or anything like that. So really I was just kind of going based off feel. There wasn't a ton of actual data going into a lot of these decisions.
And kudos, Jacob, for not telling him any of that information beforehand.
I didn't ask. I'm sure if I had asked for something, he would have given me something. But yeah, I was just going off of basic ratings points, differential, home field advantage, that sort of thing. Just the general stuff. Backing up a little bit, as Jacob had mentioned, a lot of us had some trouble getting up to the course. So the night before, I had put it into my GPS and it said hour and 20 minutes to get there. I'm like, okay, it's a bit of a trip, but that's all right. When I put it into my GPS that morning, it said an hour and a half. And I figured, with the weather and everything, that makes sense. It's going to be a little bit slower. And then we proceeded to get stuck behind Stewart's gas truck that could not get up over 40 for the entire trip that we were going there. So we were stuck behind him for like half an hour. And then as soon as we got out from behind him, we were stuck behind a plow for a while and eventually had to end up passing him. And he wasn't going higher than 30. So it took us 2 hours to get there.
I didn't even know Stewart's had their own gas trucks. So,
I couldn't tell you. It was a large truck. Maybe it was a milk truck.
Yes, Stewart's in
It
their
was
milk.
it was a liquid truck that had Stewart's printed on the back, and I stared at it for a long ass time. So yeah, very appreciative of the North and everybody for accommodating us being there a little bit late.
No penalty points or nothing like that?
No penalty points, not for
right.
being late.
Man, those North guys are so nice.
We might need to look at some rulings changes, although that discussion might happen later in the podcast.
Oh, okay. I dig it.
But feeling pretty good going into matchups. Just kind of went based on feel. Wasn't stressing. Afterwards, drank some bourbon, courtesy of the North, which was very nice of them.
Did you have any beer?
No beer myself. I know there was beer available, but I didn't
Any
go looking
scotch?
for it. I don't think there was any scotch.
All right.
I got to run down the list.
Yeah.
So yeah, going into round one, like Jacob was saying, a lot of the times as a captain, you just kind of let yourself go out there as a blind throw and let them throw whoever they're going to throw at you. And I came up with Greg Hill, who obviously is a very strong player. I don't know if he designed the course or at the very least had a strong hand in helping make the course. So even more of a home field advantage for him going up against someone who was playing it blind. But he did a good job of explaining, this is where the OBs are. This is, sort of the shot you're looking for. So very appreciative to him. Played with Ryan Kendrick, who is always a nice guy to play with. I don't think I had played with him since 2023 or 2022. One of the times that the Stony Killers in New England got to finals and we played at Rapscallion, which is no longer a course, ended up playing 3 matches and didn't move up, which was disappointing, but had fun playing with him then and had fun playing with him now. Dropped a couple of points early, which I blamed on, just getting out of the car and not having a lot of time to warm up. A little bit on me, a little bit on, just general conditions. Like Jake was saying, I definitely lost trust in the T-pad about halfway through. And yeah, never really recovered. There were a couple of putts that, I probably could have made, but weren't gimmies that I missed, which was disappointing. But, that's how it goes. And ended up losing 2-1, which is not bad against a player like Greg, especially at a very home course advantage course for him.
Jacob, how much would you say that Greg had influence as far as the design? Would you say primarily or?
Yeah, to my knowledge, he was pretty much the sole designer, I think.
Okay. I try not to give Alex any slack at all, but in this case, I guess I'll give him a little bit. 2-1 to the course designer, not too shabby.
It's not too bad.
No.
Yeah, one thing I gotta say is every time I play a course that I've never played before, I feel a little bit better about designing OKDGC, because every gap that I look at that's like, oh, is that too small of a gap or something like that? There's another course that I can point to that's like, oh, this one has something that's pretty dang small too. I can deal with this. This is not that outlandish for a course to have.
Yeah, I definitely heard some feedback about a few of the holes. Which it's funny hearing what people have to say is, when it's their first time around at the course, because it's like, I've gotten used to it a bit, having played there, a decent number of times, but it very much echoes the same thoughts, I had, so I can't really complain too much.
Yeah, I think hole 7 was one that really stuck out.
Hole 7, definitely. The tee shot there is pretty treacherous.
There's a gap there. There is undeniably a gap there, but it is a difficult gap to hit. But yeah, so I lost my round, but Ryan was luckily able to win his. I think Ryan was up 4 with 5 left, or maybe even 5 with 6 left. And his opponent, who was the other Jacob, won 4 or 5 in a row to force a final hole where I believe they were even going into that final hole. And Ryan was able to get a birdie to Jacob's par to finish out with a 1-up. Feeling all right walking in. And as I was coming in, I saw a text from the group saying, Sam Richter had won 8 and 6 and Troy Vasari had won 7 and 5. And the long walk back from hole 12 made me feel a little better on that walk because of hearing those results at the very least.
All right. So looks like Chatham Hill had a 12-6 lead after one round. Were there any other matchups you guys wanted to highlight?
I think personally for me, and this is maybe giving away something, I don't know, but and also giving something away and maybe tooting my own horn a little bit. But I was really happy with just how I personally did matchups just as a new team captain this year. Primarily that last matchup on the board, which is matching up Amanda and Cody, not against each other, but rather on the same card for the North. I feel like they have a lot of just really good, I don't know, camaraderie, so to speak, and Cody's really good at lifting up. Yeah, good synergy. That's a better word for it. And Cody's definitely really good at like lifting up pretty much anybody he plays with. So even though as far as a premier match goes, it, probably was Cody versus Andrew.
Yeah.
I had a good amount of confidence that those two could get it done and was just kind of glad to see it follow through.
That had mapped out to be my number one versus number one. If I was going through and just ranking how I expected these people to do, Cody was the number one on your side and Andrew was the number one on our side. So yeah, it was a good matchup there.
That's kind of been a theme, like who's on the card with each other can sometimes be beneficial to both or at least one of the card mates. But that's Andrew Durrell, right?
Yep, Doral.
I'm saying thank you.
I said Durrell for like a year. Mm-hmm. So
that's the other thing. I probably already said Conine several times. It's Canine. And I just found out that literally on Saturday.
I just found out at 8:44 or whatever time it is. So I've said his name probably 100 times. And now that's going to be, oh man.
Both Eric and Cody, I've called them Conine to their face probably like a dozen times.
Can you say the correct pronunciation again?
I think it's canine. So it's not like conine, like you don't emphasize the first part. But
all right, canine.
I guess specifically for the spread, because the food's always one of the highlights. I think it went off without a hitch, aside from one crock pot of meatballs that didn't get turned on. But otherwise, everything else went pretty well. We had the connoisseurs and judges of Jeff Wykowski and Mike Schwartz. So Jeff and Mike were up. I think Mike is technically the unofficial official judge. So I'm interested to hear his notes or thoughts on it later on. But yeah, got a good feedback there. People seem to enjoy it like usual. I think we've put it on a good spread all season. And this was our last home match. So done for the season now.
But as the visiting player, what were your thoughts, Alex?
I think it was great. First up, having an indoor area is just incredible. Being out in the cold and then being able to walk inside. And even just like hot food, always a big thing for me. Hot food that stays hot longer than 30 seconds because, you take it out, you put it on a paper plate. If you're out in the cold, it's just going to freeze anyway. But yeah, being able to have hot food that stayed hot is just top tier. I unfortunately missed breakfast, but they did also provide breakfast, which is, always a bonus. And they had plenty of Uncrustables. So I don't know what more you can ask for from a spread.
Randy, speaking of Uncrustables.
I was waiting. Jacob, have you heard about the Sun Butter Uncrustables that Target sells now?
I've not.
Are you allergic to tree nuts or just peanuts?
I am allergic to tree nuts.
It is sunflower seeds.
Yeah, so I can have sun butter, but there's something weird about it in that it still just smells and looks like peanut butter to me. I don't know. It's this weird, like, I feel like spidey sense you get if you're like severely allergic to something that's just even something that like closely resembles it, smell or taste or whatever. Just, I don't know. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but maybe I'll give it a try. Or at least Amanda might be interested. She likes sun butter a lot. So
my daughter growing up had a peanut allergy that she has miraculously outgrown, but we grew up as a sun butter family. And now that she can safely have peanut butter, she doesn't want it because it doesn't like appeal to her. She was never like allowed to have it. And sun butter is really fun because if you put it in baked goods, they turn bright green. Freaks people out at work because they're like, they bite into the Christmas cookie and it's green inside and they think it's mold.
Just in time for March Team Challenge.
True. Just to highlight a specific dish, I think people really like the chicken gnocchi soup that Joe Karen brought.
Isn't it pronounced ganache?
Thank you, Corey.
Gnocchi.
Yeah, I believe he said he didn't make it, but he did bring it. So still gets credit.
All right. So looks like high marks for the North in their first year.
So Amanda's COVID project for several years, and this is before Team Challenge at all, was to get really, really good at making chocolate chip cookies and just like nail down a good recipe. And I know from our team's perspective, like that's something that basically everybody hounds her and makes sure that she brings those each match that we're hosting. But I just wanted to put it out there that sort of like a joking season goal or whatever for her was to compete with your mom's cookies, Alex, as far as, maybe the Team Challenge wide cookie contest that's going on. So curious to hear what people thought, not from our team themselves.
I believe people really like them. I know I like them, and I know my mom liked them as well. But I don't know if anyone else was specifically talking about them, but they were definitely good cookies.
You can bring them to the away match at 9 Kill.
Now I'm sorry that you guys came to our course. Cookies?
We just might.
Not to hijack the cookie conversation, we actually had some of your mom's cookies, Alex, from when we went to the MVP Open.
Right, yep.
The frozen dough that she had in the freezer, I was like, well, heck, I'm not throwing that away. I'm taking it home. I finally made them last week for Putting League, and everybody was dying over them. So please pass along that everybody at Beacon also really loves her cookies.
Will do.
Yeah, they were fantastic still.
If they were dying, what year from Maple Hill was it?
There were a couple left at the end, and there were a couple people that were like, oh, I'll have another, but like, did everybody get one? Like, did everybody get to have one? So they were being very diplomatic and making sure that everybody got to try the cookies, but they were so good still.
Awesome.
Just this year, though, just this past year.
No, that's cool. All right, so what's the thoughts going into round 2?
I'll start off with round 2. We knew going in that we were unfortunately going to be at 14-3 going into round 2, as Ryan Jeske wasn't going to be able to play both rounds, so he had to leave at lunchtime. And we're prepared to take a penalty point or whatever needed to happen, but luckily it worked out that the North also had a player who wasn't able to play the second round, so it ended up being 14-3 each side. So that throws off the numbers for doubles. So figuring out whether we're going to do triples or a single or what needed to happen there. And we had this discussion before. I think we were talking about it in New England, where you can't throw triples in New England without discussing it before with the other captains and coming to a decision. In New York, that rule is different, where it's just however it's thrown. If you want to throw triples, you can throw triples. You just need to be the first one to do it. That definitely threw me off because I did not know that rule. And it seemed like everybody else did know that rule, because Ox knew that rule, and I believe Jacob knew that rule, and I think Joe knew that rule. So I was the only one who was thinking about the other league. So that threw everything off, because I was thinking we were going to be doing doubles, and because it was an even number that we needed to get to, like we needed to get to 7 points. Like if we got 6, it would have been a tie. If we got 7, it would have been a win. The triples or the singles matters. Trying to figure out everything there, and figuring it out on the fly, looking up the rule and getting everything set there was a little bit awkward. But we were able to put together a couple of teams that we were pretty confident in winning. Like I said, we just needed 6 to tie and 7 to win. So we were trying to put together at least 3 teams that we were very confident that were going to win, and hopefully 4 or 5. Tried out some new pairings, as we always seem to do. We didn't have Ryan Jeske, who was our most consistent doubles player, so I was a little bit worried. But I think our pairings worked out pretty much the way we expected them to. I don't think there was anything that was too worrying other than the triples team, which they threw up a very strong triples team. And we weren't sure if we were going to try and fight for that match or just throw it away. We ended up throwing up a pretty strong team as well, to spoil things. They weren't able to get there, but that's all right. That happens every once in a while.
All right. This is normally when I would ask about your round, but I see that you played with Jacob. So I'm just going to ask Jacob, what were your thoughts as far as matchups and basically what Alex just said?
Well, like Alex was saying, having to work around a potential triples match, because we didn't really have a concrete idea of exactly what we wanted between Joe and I. And so I think, like I alluded to earlier, just realize the importance of trying to emphasize synergy, I guess, with the pairings that we put out. And I think that all of the pairings pretty much across the board just seemed like partners that would get along and generally play well together. So I was kind of proud of how that turned out. We didn't have a specific strategy, and I frankly didn't bother to crunch the numbers too hard in my head of, how many matches we needed to win and all that stuff. I just knew that I wanted to put people with people that they would play well together with, and, relatively skill-wise, try to match people against, folks that they had a chance to beat. I will say that one of my kind of side goals of the day was to hopefully be able to play on a card with Alex. So I am glad that I got the chance to do that.
Can I ask why, is it Joe Jaskolka?
Potentially.
He played in the triples?
Yes.
Okay. Why didn't he play with Joe K and then you had a 4 Joe card?
We thought about it. We thought about it in round 1 and we thought about it in round 2, but Joe and Kevin have been a pretty consistent pairing in doubles, and we didn't want to split things up there.
That's fair. Jacob, Joe Karen and Joe Panessa, are those your top Joes? or just 2 of the 3 Joes? Or 4, I'm sorry, 4 Joes.
Say 2 of the 4 Joes. Yeah, not necessarily top Joes.
All right.
Especially with Joe C kind of having his hand injury.
Oh, he's got a broken hand and he played it. That totally escaped my. Wow.
That was another part of the thing. Originally, we did have the numbers, like as of Thursday or maybe partway through Friday, we had the numbers to play 15-3 for both singles and doubles without Joe playing. And he was, of course, going to go and, do team captain stuff. But we had a few people that, due to some injuries and other circumstances, had to drop. But one of which I think is a snowplow driver, so he might have been the snowplow driving in front of you. There's not a non-zero chance of that. But
then we got to point out that he did push his first match. So with a broken hand, he got a half a point right there. Boom. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So how'd your guys' match go?
I'd say pretty well. It was kind of a repeat of round 1, at least for my match. We were just kind of even back and forth a bit through most of it. I think we got just over halfway through, and there's hole 13 is pretty treacherous. It's like a long kind of downhill shot. There's a few of them on the course, but this one is one of 2 where you cross Albatross Creek, where the name comes from. Obviously the creek is OB, but on this particular hole, there's like kind of a large section to the left of the fairway once you get to the bottom of the hill that's OB that kind of spans wider than the normal creek itself, just because that's how high the water can get at certain times of the year. And so on this particular hole, you could have a really good shot and get clean through the initial gap going down towards the hill, but there's a lot of trees on the other side of the creek that if you catch those, you often just get kicked right in the OB, stuff like that. So we got to this hole and our team wasn't immediately falling apart yet. I'll get to that in a second, but both Alex and Sam didn't have the best tee shots, and I think they decided to take Sam's drive, and then on his way over to it, Alex took a really hard fall and tripped on some like metal fencing that was kind of off the fairway that I wasn't aware was there at all. Thankfully, I don't think is too injured. I don't know how, once you got out of the cold, if that started hurting a lot more.
It was one of those things where I was standing at my disc and Sam was off searching, and we were pretty confident he was in bounds. So I figured, well, field mark it, pick it up, and then, hustle down so I can help search. And hustling in the snow on a downhill slope, generally not a great plan. But yeah, found a bit of wire fencing. Wasn't barbed wire, luckily enough. We found plenty of that earlier in the round. Wasn't barbed wire, but it did catch my foot, slammed my shin into a fallen log, and yeah, it wasn't too bad. I was able to walk it off and keep going, but it's swollen. It's still a little swollen. It was real swollen when I'd first gotten out of the cold, but it's not too bad.
And it's especially hard because Alex, of course, has 6 more inches to fall than most people. So.
I was going to ask, did a bunch of Lilliputians try to tie you down?
Yeah, right? It was the weirdest thing because, I've got my bag on my back and I hit the ground and then I see the things in my bag go over my head onto the ground in front of me. Yeah, so I found out once I had gotten to Sam's drive that my hand warmers had fallen out of my pocket even. So yeah, it was a rough fall, but I was able to recover reasonably well. At that point, I was like, well, it was a really close match going into that. And I was like, if we end up losing, which I'm hoping we're not, but if we do, I have something to point to as the reason we lost. But yeah, recovered reasonably well from that. It wasn't too bad. The cold definitely helped keep the swelling down until it was time to go home at least.
Yeah. So then to finish out that hole, so they had a not great lie from the short side of the creek. Both of their second shots nearly end OB. I think one of them was OB. So they basically ended up scrambling up there for a 4. Meanwhile, I had a pretty good drive and had maybe a 25-foot look for a birdie, because it's stroke play for doubles, get, 2 points to go 2 up on them, I think, at that point.
Yep.
We both, unfortunately, missed our putts, John and I, but still got the par, so got 1 up on them. Then going to hole 14 is another treacherous hole, and especially in the snow, you kind of throw along the creek, again, from one side to the other, but with the snow and the slope of this particular hole, if your disc ends up on its top side, it basically just slides like a sled down the entire hill, or has the chance to. John and I both got a really unfortunate break, and despite having some fairly okay tee shots. Like, we got across the creek okay. I think mine hit up high and ended up sliding down, and I didn't even see it go all the way down into the creek.
Yeah, it was just rude.
Yeah. And then John caught like the smallest tree in the entire woods. It was like maybe knee high, and just kind of like, I think, kicked it up so it was upright, and it rolled down the hill. So we kind of went from potentially getting 2 up on them with maybe 6 or 7 to play, something like that, just, to build up a little bit of a lead. Now we're scrambling on a snowy hill, trying not to slip to, just save bogey, because we, had both gone out of bounds. So we put ourselves to about maybe 10 feet, honestly. It was a really short putt, but again, with just the slope and the snow and stuff that day, it was so hard to get like a confident footing, make sure like when you're putting, your back foot doesn't slip out from under you. So we both actually caged or missed that putt. And so we took a double bogey to their par. So suddenly things swung the other way, and, go on to the next hole, and they got themselves maybe like a 25 footer, something like that, 25 footer. And we had to sort of scramble to get up close enough for a par. They both, to my surprise, missed it. But then we step up for probably like a 10 footer at most, I would say. And I just did not take my time with it. It's a habit that I felt pretty good that I had kicked. But for whatever reason in this moment, I was like, yeah, it's easy. And, one of those, you try to talk yourself into the fact that it's so easy, you can just do it and, don't stress about it. And I, of course, caged it. And so then double's worst nightmare, you put the pressure of a super easy putt on your partner, and John just kind of barely chained out. So then we got a bogey on what basically should have been like 20 feet of putting, 2 holes in a row total, 2 strokes lost there. So suddenly they're now 2 up on us.
In your defense, a 25 footer for Alex is what we call a leaner. He just leans and puts that puppy in. So, and they missed it. So don't feel too bad.
Well, that's why I said I was surprised. Yeah, no, I mean, that definitely broke our confidence. But we went on to the next hole, and it's, again, another hole where you throw across the creek. But this one I actually hit like a pretty good, maybe like 20-foot uphill putt on, just kind of solidifying the story of the day that like all of the easy putts were hard and all of the hard putts somehow seemed easy. So that put us just one back again. But then, yeah, we just kind of didn't have great tee shots and couldn't really keep up with them. I think they had a great tee shot on 17 and cashed the birdie there. 18, we both made the island. We were kind of hoping for a potential swing on that hole, but with both teams making the island, it's kind of hard for that to happen. We did almost have, I think John's drive especially was like kind of airing towards an ace run. So there was a brief glimmer of hope. We thought we might do something crazy, but yeah, well, too little, too late. But it was definitely fun playing with those guys and Alex for the first time.
Yeah, definitely had a lot of fun. After those 2 back-to-back rough putting showings, it definitely felt like it wasn't a foregone conclusion, but when the match is that tight going into that and then losing multiple strokes off of it, it's so tough to recover and come back from that. But yeah, we were running pretty smooth after that. Definitely had a couple of nice putts. I was able to correct a couple of putts. Hole 7's the one with the basket on a cart, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had like a 30-footer there that I missed in round 1 that I made in round 2. Like Jacob was saying, that 17, I think it was 17, was the one where I made the putt through the V in the trees, which was the same putt I had in round 1 and missed.
That's hole 10.
Hole 10. I'm way off then. Okay. Either way, I like had a couple of nice putts that I was able to adjust from round 1 and make in round 2. So feeling pretty good. Coming in from doubles.
That putt was crazy. I forgot about that. I feel like part of the reason all these hard putts seem easy right now is because we're all doing putting leagues. It's like you're used to throwing through weird obstacles and stuff, right? And not just taking the nice, easy open ones. But
yeah.
Kind of as we got back to the clubhouse, results coming in obviously weren't in our favor, but I was happy to see that, we got the triples match won for us. And then there was a lot of really close matches. There was, one whole playoff. So Joe C, despite his broken hand, almost pulled off, at least 2 wins for the day.
That guy's an animal. I'm just saying. A push and then a playoff. He played more holes than everybody else there with a broken hand. Just saying.
I think it's the cold and all the bourbon. You just couldn't feel it.
Powered through.
Yeah. And then, Amanda and Ashley, I don't know if they did a playoff or I think it was that last hole, actually.
I think it was just
hole
that
4.
last hole, yeah.
Yeah, they were tied and had been tied for quite a while. I think, and played up to the last hole, but unfortunately lost it in the end to Beth and Mindy. But a few others that were only a stroke or so off.
So it looks like it was 12-6 round 1, 12-5 Chatham Hill round 2. So that's what, 24 to 11. Chatham Hill gets your first win. How's it feel, Alex?
Feels pretty good. You know, it always feels good to get a win. Can't complain too much about anything, really. Even the losses have been close. So good to have a pretty confident win going in, and hoping to repeat at SPW next month.
Well, from somebody with their first win to Corey, you picked the North, your first loss. How's that feel?
It's bound to happen.
I appreciate that your first loss was in favor of us, or rooting for us. So
the 2-1 whips at the 3-0 wrenches. I got Alex, Evan, Jason, Jamin, Randy, and Jacob had Mindkill winning. Caitlin and Corey picked the wrenches. Corey, what do you got?
Randy, why don't you go?
Corey birdied every hole was my problem. No.
Oh yeah.
Should we? Okay, we'll start before the round. So basically, last minute we had 3 people not able to show up. 2 people that were halfway there, and then they got stuck in like stop traffic on the highway, and their GPS was putting them later and later. They just were not going to make it. So they turned around. They were coming from Binghamton, and then Jason couldn't show up due to a health issue with his daughter. So like immediately big problem. And driving was sketchy, so I couldn't like text or anything on my way there to like give Brian a heads up. So it was hard to like plan really until we got there.
Yeah, so like going into round 1, Mindkill was down 3 players. Chris Dahl actually had to go home because he had an issue at his house with a water valve. So then we had to sit 2 players. Those 2 players, I believe it was just 2, Brian Travis and Brendan Sisk. They actually went out and swept all the J North tee pads of the inch-ish of slippery snow that had collected during the snowfall.
MVPs.
Yeah, it was super clutch because they could have been way worse. And for the most part, they were pretty good. Brian had asked me during the week, like, you know, anyone in particular you might want to play? And I immediately said Randy because I thought that would be fun. And that's kind of how it wound out is I played against Randy. Matt Cully played against Peter Hodge. That was the first time I played with Peter Hodge, and that dude is good.
Yep.
Yeah, so actually we did talk about how we sniped them from you guys for New England.
Yeah.
For just
Patreon, Peter Hodge. Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, myself and Randy, I think I got the first hole on him. And then from there, I think the next like 4 holes, maybe Randy took those on me. So I'm pretty sure I was behind for the first 9 holes or so.
Yeah, I think we got through 9 about even. Like we traded a few.
And I'm assuming you guys played West both rounds, like Randy asked last week?
Oh, no, we played J North.
Like white teeth.
Yeah, so then the back 9 went a little bit more my way, and I was able to, as a card, it took a while for any of us to get birdies. It's pretty tough conditions. Once we got to the back 9 through like Birdie Alley, I was able to string a few together and eventually get a couple points on Randy, and then just kind of ran out of holes. I don't know if anything super interesting happened other than at one point, Randy, we had a lot of backups. So Randy, we were kind of making like, man, it'd be cool if we had a beer cart out here, like a golf course.
Is that about the point where Randy was, didn't you post about wishing that somebody
that was only like 4 holes in or 5 holes in.
Yep. And it was funny. Aaron Holtby commented on it, and all he said was Utica Club. And I don't think he had any idea that, like, I was there. It was kind of, like, maybe he did. I don't know. I just thought it was pretty random, and I would have definitely taken the Utica Club. So he owes me one as far as I'm concerned.
So in the first round, did the player issue affect the scoring?
Yeah. So, I mean, we were down 1.5 points to start the round from the penalty points. And the people who were not there from Mindkill also gave us a weird offset. So matchups were kind of funky. And I really didn't know how it was going to pan out. The only real advantage we had were the ladies. And I was able to get kind of the highest risk matchup for the ladies to try and net us, 3-0 for the ladies matchups. And that worked out. So that was kind of able to offset the penalty points that we were going to accrue during the day. And then I just had to hope that the men's matchups worked. It ended up working out in our favor. So Mindkill was actually up 0.5 point at lunch with the penalty.
All right. So Jason, you weren't able to play. Your daughter was sick. Is she okay?
She's getting better. Yeah, it was kind of a chaotic weekend. She's been like having some excruciating stomach pains, and that morning she woke up with a 103 fever, in no shape to take her to the babysitter. She's had some other issues last couple of years that we were a little concerned with. So Jess and I one of us is going to need to take her to a doctor and the other one can play. And Jess gets twice as many penalty points if she doesn't show up than me. So it was a pretty obvious decision that she should go play and I should take G to the hospital.
I mean, she's also the captain, the former commissioner, and a better disc golfer. So I would go with her, of course, anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
I definitely wouldn't have won all my matches. So, but no, I was really bummed to miss it. I was like occasionally in between doctors and stuff, checking UDisc, seeing what the scores were the second round, which I learned you can sort by card. Definitely going to know that next time, because taking screenshots of the whiteboard and going back and forth is a pain in the ass. So yeah, I don't really have much to offer. I wasn't there, but
you're my rules master. Did you look at the whiteboard in round 1 and see anything hanky?
No, so there was nothing wrong with it round 1. You wouldn't be able to pick up on it until the whole match is done.
Okay.
Right.
So it looks like Mindkill is up 8.5 to 7 after 1. How was the spread?
I'm here trying to internalize metabolism as I devoured a giant bowl of chili. I'm feeling a little fat right now. I made a giant crock pot of chili for our match, and literally nobody ate it. I don't mean like not a lot of people ate it. I mean nobody ate it. So I came home with the entire thing. Which wasn't bad chili. I mean, I don't know. Maybe because it was at the end. I don't know. It didn't like thicken up as much as I wanted it to. But at first I was like, damn. But then I'm like, wait a second. I got chili like for the next 2 days minimum.
Was there something wrong with it?
No, it looked like an amazing crock pot of chili. Had all your classics in there. Beans and ground beef and other stuff.
The spread was good. We were one of the last people in, so I had to eat like super fast so we could do matchups. Unfortunately, I definitely took seconds at the end of the round to try the other food. There was like different curries. I think there was 2 different curries. Definitely a good spread of like styles of food or like regional type of food. So definitely appreciate that. And there was a few different beers to choose from.
Any chili that you thought was appetizing?
Yeah, man, you didn't mention no chili. You didn't handle my chili?
I did. So my go-to for my first lap through the food is if there's mac and cheese, I get mac and cheese and I put the chili on top of it. And that's exactly what I did. And it was great.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mixed the mac and cheese with the pulled pork and some of the chili and some goulash. And Gorsage had some Parmesan cheese. I put some of that on top of all of it. It was like a garbage plate. Amazing.
Ooh.
All right. So you're up 1.5 points, Randy. What's the thought going into round 2? And is there more finagling with players and such?
Okay, so I think we're only up half a point. I think it was 8 to 8.5.
I got 8.5 to 7 according to Brian Bickersmith's thing, but I might be wrong.
Is it a computer generated thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not real.
Oh, okay. I grabbed that because the other one, it showed round 1, but it didn't show round 2.
Yeah, he sent you the adjusted thing.
Got you. All right.
So going into matchups, we were only up 0.5 point. And the rule is the people from the other team, if they're not present, you can't actually collect the penalty points. So the only person that stayed for the second round was Austin Swartout. So they were only collecting 0.5 point for the second round. So that basically called it even going into matchups for the second round. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to scramble a little bit. We had to choose a triples because we had an odd number. And we kind of had to decide how our ladies were going to go out just because the skill levels from both teams for the ladies were interestingly matched up. So we had to like make a call. So we threw Jess out with Cat Cha-Cha first to try and get them to play their stronger lady, Alexis. And then we knew the lady left over would be in the triples. The triples is, were 3. So I really wanted to win the ladies and the triples that would, net us a lot of points and give us kind of control over matchups. And honestly, going through the matchups, we had a legitimate chance to sweep in doubles. Like there were no matchups that were completely offset. And the only matchup that wasn't close was Brian and Kate just like absolutely spanked 2 of our guys. So
I don't know if you know this, Randy, but Caitlin Clay is pretty fucking good.
She's like really good. Yeah, like absolutely like no contest. Like we saw them halfway through the round and they were just like shaking their heads like it wasn't going to happen. But still, even with that, I felt really good about the round 2 matchups.
Corey, you played in the threesome?
I did. I played on the Trips card, and that's where I was able to witness. Oh, no, yeah, I played with Peter Hodge all day. And what am I talking about? So I was in threesome. The first few holes, oddly enough, we were backed up. We were waiting on the guys ahead of us, and we started the whole thing late because we kind of like pushed it back because of driving conditions. Round 1 went kind of long because we were playing J North, and we didn't even start round 2 until, I don't know what time it was, 2 o'clock or something like that. So in the beginning, I was getting a little frustrated that people weren't like acting like we only had 2 hours of daylight left, and that, when the sun goes down, the temperature drops 10 degrees. But after a few holes, it kind of cleared up. Like Jason had mentioned, all the doubles rounds are up on UDisc now, so you can kind of follow along. I had known that triples match was going to be pretty important, and felt like we had a pretty good chance, myself and Jeremy Whitaker and our lady Diane Dreyfus versus Peter Hodge, Adrian Van Hall, and Marcia.
Marcia wasn't one of the Binghamton people that got slowed down, apparently.
Marcia will drive through, what do they say, hell and high water to get to where she has to go play disco.
When you said Binghamton people, that was the first person I thought, like, oh, Marcia must not have made it. So apparently she did.
So one of our Binghamton people is a meteorologist, and guess what? He stayed in a hotel the night before so he could show up on time, and he should have told all of them. So 3 of the 5 Binghamton people made it because they got a hotel, and yeah, they should have coordinated that a little better, I guess. So luckily it wasn't 5 people, because that would have been just like game over, unfortunately. But yeah, anyways.
Yeah, so during our round 2 of the triples round, we found ourselves behind a couple strokes right off the bat, and then just weren't really able to claw back. And then, after halfway through the round, we kind of cooled off, and they were able to grab another couple birdies. So looking at UDisc, I had assumed that meant that we were going to lose the match, just looking at what some of their scores were. But when we get back to the pavilion, it sounded like our match didn't really matter. We had already won due to the penalty points.
Well, before we get to that, Randy, you played with Jimmy O'Connell against Ian Daunton and Ryan Travis 148-343. How was that match?
That was really fun. I hadn't got to play with Jimmy yet. He's an ultimate player. The last time I played against him was, I don't even know now, like 10 years ago or something, like playing ultimate. And small world kind of thing. He ends up on my disc golf team. But he's fun. He's a good putter. And I knew that when I picked him to be my partner, because we definitely had to reshuffle partners based on who showed up and everything. We started on the small wood section of like 3 or 4 holes on J South, and we had no issues going through there. And Ryan Travis, 148-343, pretty much realized he was close to his car and was like, should we just call it now? And luckily we kept playing for the rest of the round. But we had a good time. Me and Jimmy had no issues. I don't think we ever putted for par outside of like 15 feet. It was just like very smooth, low stress, fun round.
And this was South?
This was South, yeah.
All right. So Jamin called it last week. I'm just double checking.
I mean, I don't think they've deviated from their layout choices yet this season, so nothing too crazy.
How did this transpire that it looked like Jpark had won, right, Corey, you said?
It did. Initial reports were that Jpark won due to the penalty points.
How did you guys first find out that there might be some controversy?
I think Jason was the first one to notice, unless he has another idea. But basically, because Jason wasn't there, he only looked at the whiteboard. And when you look at the whiteboard, you only see one person sitting in the first round and one person sitting in the second round. And the rule is to collect penalty points, the people that are sitting have to play one of the rounds. Is that basically how it went, Jason?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I just asked Jess, like, who was sitting, and then kind of rest, she just talked to Randy and figured out that the rules were applied differently, I guess.
Yeah, so, and this might come off as bias, and I hope it doesn't sound salty, because a tie is still better than worst case of a loss. But I'm sure this is all kind of thought of when the rules put together, so I'm totally not against counter argument, but it does seem a bit odd that in this situation where the away team came up short players and the home team had a full roster, it seems odd that the only way to get penalty points is to tell someone that they made the drive for no reason by not playing, or only being able to apply the penalty point based on if that player played, even though a full roster was produced. I don't know if anyone else thinks that's...
I don't think there was any like angle shooting or malintent on Jpark's side at all, but the rule actually was, it's kind of been an unwritten rule for a long time in New England and New York that no person should ever sit both rounds. And there was some drama in one of the earlier seasons when Jackie was commissioner where that happened. And so they codified that rule and put it in the charter that you can't bench the same person twice.
So somebody got benched twice?
Not this time.
That is what happened. So because, unfortunately, Brendan was benched both rounds, retroactively his penalty point from the first round doesn't exist and from the second round. So that's an entire point that wasn't applied.
So basically, if Brendan hung around, didn't play round 1, and then played round 2, we would have gotten another penalty point instead of him just going home.
Half point.
Half point, yeah.
They just sent him home because he wasn't going to have somebody to play again.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Jpark would have had to bench other people in the second round to get him to play. And that's why the rule exists. It's because you could just bench your lowest rated player for both rounds and earn points that way. That wasn't the plan. Like, there was no plan. It was cold and the sun was setting and we were just like making our matchups as quickly as we could. And unfortunately, like, captains didn't realize what was going to happen.
I got you. So basically, he just didn't get called.
It's not his fault.
It's nobody's fault. And then in round 2, had you already sent them home?
Yeah, he had already gone home, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sure. He swept the T-pads for round 1 and then, I think went home.
Oh, what a guy.
Yeah.
So because he didn't play anybody, it's kind of like he didn't show up, so you guys were kind of short. Is that how, so you didn't get penalty points on his behalf? Even though he showed up, he didn't play a match.
Even if he played on a losing Dubs team, he still would have got more points if he had just played, basically.
Dang, that is weird.
I actually had to really focus on that part of the charter myself this match, because I knew going in that we were going to have more people than the Beasts were. And I had to make sure I understood it and knew that if somebody sat matched, they had to play Dubs in order to get the penalty point.
Yeah, a good kind of rule of thumb is if your opposing team is missing 2 players, I'll just say hypothetically, then you have to bench twice as many. So you have to bench 4 players to get all those points.
Because you got to bench 2 in the first round, but you can't bench the same 2 in the second round.
Correct.
Should always be double of whatever's missing, unless there's some weird stuff that happens in between the rounds. But just kind of a suggestion, if we do whiteboards, all those penalty points can be assigned to an individual.
I suggest Corey, but that's just me.
Yeah, we did that with Mike Young, the one match that we sat him. Like, we wrote his name and wrote 0.5 to a blank opponent.
Yeah, I remember doing that last year once or twice.
And that would make you realize that, hey, he needs to play in round 2 to kind of justify those points, I guess.
That would confuse me more.
I believe it.
Because I would say, okay, he's already played. I would look at the board quickly and say, oh, he played there. I don't have to worry about playing him in the other round.
That's why you have 2 co-captains, Kevin.
Yep.
So in the end, it ended up as a tie, which Pat will put that in here right now, where I predicted a tie in this match. But yeah, Jpark over Mindkill in a playoff. Chad Larson and Corey Cook take it after 3 holes for the team.
Ooh.
I'm just saying, I predicted that it was going to end in a tie.
Oh, man.
And so now we have a postponed potential playoff match, but only if the playoff matters for finals, I guess.
So when will that be determined?
So we tentatively have a playoff scheduled for March 9th, which is the day after the final weekend. And there's a few scenarios where this match doesn't matter and we just won't even have it because it really won't affect playoffs. So yeah, we'll see.
Shout out to Brian for posting all the information very transparently, clearly, and to the captains and commissioners that were involved in resolving it, because it was done very professionally. And like Jamin said, it was not like a New England post at all.
I love that comment. That was
funny.
From Brian Bickersmith, following our match, it has come to our attention that penalty points were incorrectly applied due to unexpected roster changes and day of scheduling adjustments. Our opponents arrived 3 players short, and our team adapted by reassigning roles and managing unforeseen circumstances, including our own emergency departure. Upon review, the recalculated score results in a tie, 15.5 to 15.5. The incorrect application of penalty points stemmed from how roster rules were applied across both rounds. While the match was initially recorded as a win, this adjustment reflects the accurate outcome. We're working with the opposing team and league officials to determine the next steps, which may include a sudden death playoff or recording the match as a tie. We remain committed to fairness, transparency, and continuous improvement and managing future matches under similar circumstances, the wrenches. Below that, he posted the results. That's why I thought that was the right one, because he put it after that.
I just want to say big thank you to Brian for typing a lot of that up and being very clear with everything. It was hard to like put down all the order of events and everything that transpired to make this happen. And a big important thing to realize in this scenario is that the outcome of our match impacts other teams in the league. And if we had just said like, oh, it's a tie, like, haha, like we'll leave it a tie forever, like that negatively impacts other teams in the league. So like if there is any impact at all from this tie, like we will play it off to finalize it.
Absolutely. That's all for Alex, because Chatham Hill's coming back, baby. Second half.
Hey, 2-4 is an outside chance of making playoffs. It's not likely, but it's possible.
No doubt. All right. Well, it's a learning process, and I think you guys handled it really well. That's my comments on it. Any last comments on that match or anything?
Kudos to how they worked it out.
Definitely.
All right. We got 2 more matches to go. We're going Widowmakers at Roses. We had Alex, Evan, Jason, Corey, Jamin, Randy, Caitlin, and Jacob all pick the Roses to win this match. How'd it go, Kristen?
It went pretty well, not in favor of anybody on the podcast. Nick T wanted me to pass along. He assumes that everybody hates us. He doesn't know why, so.
Because you won last year, duh.
We're really nice people, though. We're really great.
But you guys are the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's just JP.
If I hated the Windowmakers before, I definitely don't hate them now. I hate Central Park for losing the match.
We left pretty early. For us, at least, it's about like an hour, 20, hour and a half to get there. I had talked my friend Mike Warner, righty.
Highland Mike Warner?
Yep, Highland Mike Warner, into caddying for me because I have been having just like issues in my left shoulder and the muscle running down my neck and everything. So I'm like, if I could just have somebody carry my stuff, that would just make all of this so much easier, especially on a snowy day, how it was going to be Saturday. So I don't know how, but I convinced him to come up. So we picked him up and we picked Andrew Gulak up in Highland and then shot up the thruway to Schenectady. Little bit sketchy on the way up there, but as a great captain does, Nick was voice texting everybody to make sure they were driving safe. Lots of plows and sanders and everything on the road, so at least there was that. But the way home wasn't bad whatsoever. It was really just the way up. It snowed essentially 75% of the day, and then all of a sudden it stopped snowing, and we were like, oh, I didn't even realize it stopped snowing. Pretty cold day, but, like I said, we layered up.
How often do you play CPS? Like in a year, how many times would you say?
That's probably my 2 for the year, unless I get back up there for another tournament.
Okay.
I really love CPS. I've always loved CPS, so anytime we can get up there, it's awesome. But as you guys probably see during the year, we're traveling all over the place for tournaments, for weekend trips, just finding new courses and all that. So, visiting anything semi-local is not the usual unless we got something going on at the course that weekend. But yeah, I do love CPS. That's, I think, maybe the 3rd time I've played there since the holes changed. We had gone up a couple weeks before during Zach's winter break to just get like another round in and see how the course was playing, see how the snow was. And we had a great time then too. So those back, I think it's 11 and 12. Those are pretty tricky, especially in the snow. And I very sadly lost my favorite Artemis Thrasher in somebody's backyard during the 2nd round.
What kind of disc is a Thrasher?
It's a driver.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a great bright colored peach halo-ish Thrasher that just caught a little bit of a breeze and kept pushing left, then hit a tree and went backwards. So I could see it. I can't say I lost it. I could see the disc. And it's just sitting in somebody's backyard and they weren't home. So I left them a note with a $5 bill. Like, can you please just get it back to the lost and found box? I really want it back. I'm so sorry. I didn't hit anything, I promise.
That's awesome.
Yeah, perfectly in the backyard. Far enough we couldn't stick like a retriever or anything over it. So we're like, hopefully somebody's coming back sometime soon and they'll throw it over there. But who knows? It's up to fate now. But yeah, I mean, it's a great day. I mean, they've got so many great people on CPS. The Rosebuds, I believe they are officially the Rosebuds this year.
Oh, okay.
Although Kyle did have a Syringes hoodie on. So for a moment we weren't sure. And I love playing. The women on their team are so strong. I think this was probably the match that we were most anxious for so far this year, going into it, especially being undefeated, both of us going into it. And, the weather, that could give toss up to anybody. Anybody can have a hot round in the snow or lose it in the snow. So we weren't entirely sure what was going to happen, but I think matchups, they were done so cleanly that it was pretty tight. We only had them by a couple points after the first round. And then credit goes to the captains for knowing how everybody plays with each other and how we match up as pairs against teams that we see them once a year. So, you have that one shot to figure out how you're going to play against them. And we really came out very strong during doubles. And, I think the ladies cards are usually one of the last cards coming in. So we're coming in and I'm looking at them trying to figure out okay, guys, are we happy? Are we having sad beers or are these happy beers? And, what's the general feel of it? Nick's walking over and I'm telling him, I'm like, yeah, we won, this was great. And I kept thinking he's shaking his head and I'm like, okay, you need to use your words. What's happening? I was like, is it good? Is it bad? What's happening?
Nick sometimes can be hard to read. So no, I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. We were just kind of laughing at that, but it was great. And I think, that was a pretty big win for us overall.
Who did you play against in round one?
The first round I played against Megan Mercier, who I adore. She is so fun to play with, and I feel like I haven't known her for too long. I've only been playing for the last 3 or 4 years, and I think from the time that I've known her and the time that I've seen her play, she has just progressed and gotten so much better. And I know she's playing even FPO for some events and just killing it. I got to play with her at the Wilcox Wonderland in December, and she absolutely crushed it. If she was going to compete in an FPO field there, she would have been great. She was battling along scores that, she wasn't too far off Caitlin for it. So I think that was some really stiff competition. Both her and Julia, I believe, were higher rated than the women on our team. Mm-hmm. So if we're looking at just ratings wise, it was going to be a pretty tough matchup. So I have been doing my best to take a really strong mental approach and be like, you know what, we're going to go in. It's team challenge. We're going to have fun. You're playing with people that they're your friends. You're going to have a great time regardless. So the first round we started and immediately she was up by 2 after 2 holes. Okay, yeah, no big deal. It's totally fine. No biggie whatsoever. And then somehow I came back and we were tied. And then I got up by 2. And then slowly she came back and ended up tying me toward the end. And we had 2 holes left. We just held it and we ended up pushing. For that, I was just like, holy crap. By the last hole, I think she had me up by 1. And we finished on 5, which all the ladies cards played whites the first round. So it's a big Anheuser shot over a stream that's OB. If you try to shoot over the stream, it's really not the best shot. It's doable, but it's a tough line. So you could either go that way or you could go Big Annie, through a gap, and you have to kind of shoot out into a field. I just had a better lie on my first shot and I was able to get it in par, where I believe she ended up taking a bogey on it because she had a bad first shot that just ended up in the woods. So it was just obstructed. So, I was thrilled that I pushed, to be completely honest. I wasn't expecting too much in terms of that. So that I think was really huge. And it definitely gave me confidence going into the second round, at least.
So the women's card, you guys, it was basically even, right? A win, a loss, and a push.
Yeah. We basically washed all of our cards. And it was good. We all got to play together the first round too. We got to play on a triples card. We played so fast. I feel like we were on the card in front of us for almost every hole. We ended up having to wait a couple times on the last few just because we were playing so quickly. We had 2 caddies. Savannah had Dan with her. So, Dan was carrying her stuff. Mike had my stuff. So we had extra eyes. Mike was sweeping tee pads while we had a broom with us. So we just played really quick. But yeah, Christina took her around. So it was just, it was good. I think the Widowmakers, the women did excellent during that first round, especially.
I was going to say, a push, yeah, but on the road, a push is a win.
Yeah, and especially where you might not have been counting that as where we were going to get points or hold points at that point, and I think, looking at the score overall, that was a pretty big push, especially that first round. That mattered in making sure that we were keeping it that tight.
Absolutely. I've said Megan Mercier a lot this year, so I know she's pretty good.
Let me tell you, she is much, much higher rated than I. So, like I said, I was like, I played Amber last month for Team Challenge.
Amber Stout?
Yeah.
That's another good player. Man.
I'm saying, I was like, I think my rating, I ended with 809 for 2024. So I was like, okay, yeah, like 809. I think Amber's 860-ish. I feel like Megan's up there too. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, just throw me to the wolves. Like, okay, I'll take the hit. Like I said, I was proud. And I think my putting was a big factor in that. My putting was on. I feel like I unlocked something. Like I said, Thursday when we were down at Westchester, I unlocked how to putt accurately at a distance, like a distance more than 20 feet. And it's just been working. Like, I'll be like, Zach, this is ridiculous. Look at this stance. This is just silly. And it's like, no, but I do it. And it's just so much more accurate. So I'm like, all right, well, try to apply it while you're actually playing outside when there's wind, there's cold, there's anything, and it's working great. So I think, work on trying to get my drives to work in the winter is my next goal, but putting has been pretty good. So
have you played at CPS for their spread before?
A couple years ago we did, yes. They had some generator issues that year, so everything was a bit cold. This year they had very brief generator issues, so they were able to get that baby going and rocket and rolling early in the morning. So they had a taco bar, which was super cool. Yeah.
They needed a 2-stroke engine, Corey.
Yes.
That would have got them tacos really choo-choo.
Yeah, so they had a taco bar. I know they had queso, mac and cheese. They also had beans. Like, if you didn't want beef for your tacos, they had beans you could do. Lisa had a whole big container of like Rice Krispie treats in the cereal bars, and she wrote little inspirational messages on all the Rice Krispie treats, which was adorable. Oh my god, these coffee cake cookies, I think they were insane. They were delicious. Blondie brownies, regular brownies. So lots of sweets, lots of stuff to hold you over the second round. They had Uncrustables, so A-tier spread there. Lots of little sodas, and they had plenty of beer. I don't know if it came from them or our team, because we like to start early too. Cracked a breakfast beer, had some juice bomb to start the day. So I think that the juice bombs were powering Heiser bombs in that sense. And that's okay. Maybe that's how I have to start Team Challenge every time.
All right, so you guys got a 2-point lead going into round 2. What are the thoughts for the team?
Like I said, it was pretty tight. We were pretty confident having those 2 points going into the second round. Matchups got set, and CPS had somebody that was supposed to be there that morning, just wasn't going to be able to make it. So we ended up getting a penalty point the first round and second round.
It says 9.5 to 7.5, but then I do see under that it says 10. So you actually had a 2.5 point lead. Okay.
Yes. So they set up these matchups, and I think the big matchups that they were trying to diminish, especially, were going to be, Ethan Hatters is on that team. Kyle Hirsch is on that team. So trying to find matchups that are going to either neutralize or take those wins against those bigger hitters on their team to get as many points as possible. So it was Nick and JP versus Ethan and Tom Rascona. Nick and JP won that one, and they took that by 2 points. So that was a pretty big doubles win. And then it was Kyle with Troy Moran, who I guess that might have been their first match. I'm not sure. But they played against Max Horowitz and Nick Warren, and Max and Nick took that one for us as well. So I think that was another big one. Christina Nardi, she played against Lisa in singles, just stroke play for the second round, because we had the 3 women, but like I said, they didn't have the one extra guy. So we didn't have that extra doubles team. So Todd actually ended up jumping on that card and going with them. And Christina ended up taking that round, which was awesome.
Todd Martin?
Yep, Todd Martin.
He played a casual round just as an impartial observer kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. Just as, because he was there. So just to, still hang, be with the team, root us on, give Christina, somebody else on her card from the team, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So, that was good. And then Savannah and I played against Megan and Julia, which again was just another tough matchup. Savannah and I have been playing I think we've actually have played doubles together for every match this season for Team Challenge. We've been doing really well.
What's Savannah's last name?
Savannah Burke. She's the president on the Wilcox Club.
She does the posts and such. Okay.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, we've been playing together for a while as a doubles team. Like I said, especially this season, I think we've been paired together every matchup. And, I think this last matchup was the most solid that we've played all season. And that's saying a lot because I think we've been having some pretty decent rounds together as is. And it was fantastic. Like if my drive wasn't working, her drive worked and up shots and, we were able to hold them. So I think that overall was another really huge win for the women on our team.
Heck yeah.
A lot of the matchups were pretty close.
Anthony B, is that AB?
Lil Brohansky?
Yeah, I think that is, yeah.
And Tim J, which Tim J? There's 47 Tim J's up north. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They got beat by Travis Bashore and Alden Slack. Am I right?
Yep.
All right.
I think that says there was a playoff.
Oh, 3-hole playoff.
So they were the last ones in. And it's not that we don't want them to finish it and that they shouldn't try to win that one, but their win didn't really matter at all. So we were just like, all right, guys, come on in. We're done. Everybody's done. And they're like, no, we got it. So they ended up finishing, so 3-hole playoff and they ended up still winning that one. So good for them.
Yeah, because even with taking them out, it's 13-2 with the singles match.
Yeah.
And then that made it 15-2. Plus, you got a penalty point.
Yeah.
So 15.5-2. So 25.5 to 9.5.
No, I've been truly impressed with how Travis has been leading Nick and how Nick has been making these matchups with him. They've been doing it really well, and I think that kind of gives a lot of credit to how we're able to perform against the other teams. They know where our strengths or our weaknesses are best played, so that way we're getting maximum points. And generally, I think my mindset the first couple years was if I'm going to play when I'm playing doubles and if they need me to play doubles, because you never know, especially in the beginning, you don't know what women are going to be there, or if you're going to have a full 3. Now it's pretty common to definitely have 3 women on each team and there for every match, unless it's an emergency or something. But I was always well, I prefer to play with a guy because I got a noodle arm. I'm really not throwing that far. Playing with Savannah all season, we're the Thrash brothers. We both throw thrashers half the time. We both throw constructs half the time. Our games are pretty complementary in a lot of ways. And it's just it's so much fun being able to kind of grow that doubles team with her. So Team Challenge is so fun. I think this is our 3rd year doing it. For the most part, it's been the same core people. We do have a good handful of new people this year, just, with Dylan stepping down from being captain with his shoulder injuries. And Chris Del Bianco, he had a baby, so he took a season off. So we've got a few other faces in there. Jeremy Kasprick, he moved upstate. Bart, he moved down to Florida. So, there was a few really big players on our team that we lost. And I think for losing them, for having a new captain, for, coming back from an undefeated season, I think this season is going so positively, but I don't know if I expected it entirely. It was a lot of pressure coming back from that. And I think sometimes that could kill a season, that can kill a round. That anxiety could build up on people, but we've been doing so well getting past that and playing our game and having that A+ effort still. So it's crazy. It's awesome. It's so much fun.
Corey, we've done 3 matches. You got a tie and 2 losses.
I realize I put my faith in the wrong people. I'm going to have to make some adjustments going forward.
You could lose the next match and still be in the lead. So I wouldn't worry too much.
Like I said, I think that's a good little confidence booster for us. Just finishing out the rest of the season. We have, I believe it is Mind Kill next at home. And then we go to SPW for March.
All right.
Yeah, so it'll be good. Good last couple matches. I think, Mind Kill will be another tough one. But taking it at home, hopefully the snow is not too wild in February. But other than that, yeah, I think we're a great group of degenerates. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't have it any other way so much that I got a tattoo finally for the team. So
what is it?
So I liken the Lorax a lot to disc golf. I'm a big
tree hugger.
Yeah, pack it in, pack it out. Don't break the live wild plants out there unless something's really dead. So it's the Lorax standing on a stump, and on the stump it has our LFGW. Let's fucking go Windowmakers.
Okay. I thought it was going to be LFGM, but that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's close. It's
Kevin?
close.
No.
Yeah.
And then he's got a hatchet next to him with a 9-0 from last season. So
When you say a hatchet, do you mean the disc or an actual hatchet?
Oh, an actual hatchet. Just to represent our hatchet holes.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Kristen, we come to you.
Oh, you come to us. Oh, even better.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that makes me a little sad because I really love playing up there.
Well, we got to get Evan further south, so, it's only fair.
There we go.
So our final matchup, we got the 1 and 2 Tower Power at the 1 and 2 Beast of Burbine. Evan, Jason, Jamin, and Randy picked SPW to win. Alex, Corey, Caitlin, and Jacob picked Burbine. We're going to start with Kevin because he does matchups. Evan, you don't do matchups, right? You just do fancy art stuff, right?
You know what? Actually, I do the whiteboard even on away matches.
The whiteboard I'm looking at, I'm like, wow, I wish Evan did this whiteboard.
Well, I did. They gave me the marker, but I said, sure. And then I looked at the board and there's no grid. And I was like, what is this? Like, I'm just like freewheeling here. There was no grid lines. I did my best. So that was unexpected.
Taking a second look, the handwriting is very neat, but there are no grid lines. So it's kind of freaking me out. So Kevin, the matchups, what was the thought process there?
So both Evan and I did matchups. He was double fisting clerical and helping me out with matchups because Tim wasn't there. They threw a curveball at us a little bit in that they were the home team, but they can pick first or defer, and they decided to defer. So then we were like, oh, okay. So we stuck to our pattern that we've developed, or philosophy that we've developed, and started our throwouts. And when we were doing the matchups, particularly early on and everything, I thought that things were going well. We were getting good matchups, giving us chances to win when, the table may not have been not in our favor, but not so outlandish that it wasn't possible. And then in those spots where they have some really, really good guys on that team, and they actually ended up bringing in somebody for this match because they were having difficulties, as I think most of the teams this week did, filling out rosters. You just do what you can and you sacrifice people or whatever somewhere along the line. So I felt good after the matchups. I thought we had a good chance. We thought we had a really good chance of winning this match. Would have put us 2-2 for the season. We went through it all and it worked out fairly well. I thought nothing outlandish. The women's match worked out well for us in that, our women are new and learning and growing. And you have Amber, as we mentioned earlier, and Juliet and Jackie are really good too. So Jackie and Juliet set the holes for, everybody started, and it's not the greatest course, I guess, to follow cards on. So I kind of just did the 18-1-2 loop and caught cards as they were coming through, and early results were making me feel comfortable. Losing one half of a card, winning the other half, losing both ends of a card, but then picking up both ends of another match as they were coming through. And I was talking to folks on those 3 holes. It was a little of a bit of a wake up or a harsh reality when I got back to Ground Central towards the end of the match, because I did walk a few holes with one card in particular or another somewhere along the line. And I started seeing the scores and I was like, well, this didn't really go at all the way I hoped it would have. A couple of them were blowouts, but a lot of them were, 3-2s, 1-ups, or push. I felt good about it, but I'd say the worst part of the whole day was the drive there.
What was wrong with the drive there? Let me guess. You had to follow a milk truck and
a plow.
No,
I'll let Evan tell the story about a plow. No, I left here, and it's a 38-minute or 42-minute drive from Voorheesville to Burbine, but it's all Route 20, pretty much. And particularly in that weather, because it was snowing, you had to go cautiously. And there were people on the road that one stretch we got behind somebody that was probably doing 15 or 20 miles an hour on 20.
Evan, actually, before we get to your round, I see Sparky S played. Who's Andrew T?
Ty? Is it AT?
Andrew T.
It's AT.
Yeah.
People are going to know AT.
Is this Sparky any relation to a Mark Spalding?
It is Mark Spalding.
Oh, it is. So Mark Spalding, one of our newest Patreon members, Mark Spalding. Not to be confused with Sparky. All right.
It is Sparky.
Yeah. So, Evan, how was your round? Who'd you play?
I got matched up against Ben Daniels. I had never played with Ben, but I know his uncle Jeff, and Ben was a really nice guy.
And you played on the same card with Mark Spalding?
No, that round he was definitely Sparky.
Oh, okay.
My initials are EMP, so we had the electricity card going. Unfortunately, I couldn't get anything going early, just kind of was running late, and the roads were bad, and almost didn't make it because my car was not prepared for some of those back roads. I trusted Google Maps a little too much.
What kind of car you got?
I have a Honda Fit, and it's a great little car, but...
Corey, what's a Honda Fit?
It's basically like a shoebox, like actual size, like a size 14 shoebox with wheels on it.
It's like a size 16, maybe. It's roomy. My tires were already borderline, and Saturday morning kind of clinched it. So I had to turn around at one point. But anyway, just running late, couldn't really get anything going. I was down, I think, 4 after the first 5 holes, but I got it back to within 1 after the 9. We were back and forth and couldn't really ever get it going, missed some opportunities. We took it down to the last hole. I needed to win the last hole to push the match, but we tied the last hole, so Ben got the point there. That was my first match play loss this year, which was a bummer. But Ben got his first team challenge point ever, so I was happy for him. And, again, a great guy. Sparky and AT had a good match. AT kind of ran away with it at the end there, but the card was awesome. Those guys were great to play with.
All right. And how was their spread?
They had a propane heater going, which was cool. I think one of our guys brought the generator, Kev. Is that right?
Yeah, Terry, but they had a small generator that would run for 15 or 20 minutes, if that, and it would kick out and you'd go start it again. And then at one point in time, one of our guys even was like tearing it apart. Timmy.
Oh, yeah, Tim Martino I think he got it running, didn't he?
Well, he got it running maybe a little bit longer than what it had been running prior to that, and it just kept cutting out. So Terry Hudson actually called or Facebook messaged Juliet and Jackie and asked if they needed a generator, and he brought a dual stage generator, runs on propane and I guess gasoline or something too. So he brought it and a couple of tanks of propane and set it up and got the 2 crock pots that they had going juice again. And then one of their guys brings a grill, and they grilled up a bunch of dogs and burgers and cheeseburgers and I saw some maybe coconut coated shrimp, which I don't eat seafood, some chicken. I heard something about steak, but then again, it was also probably getting like within 20 minutes of Juliet and Jackie wanted to get the round back out with it getting a little bit darker there in that forest earlier. So I'm not sure if the steak ever got cooked. And the crock pots was some kind of a ganache pasta thing, and then
gnocchi,
yeah, and then some Amber made like a potato veggie soup or chowder or something like that.
Amber stout?
Yes.
Couple quick things on the spread for me. I may have missed it, but I was looking for either a Gatorade or a Polar Seltzer or a water or something.
Oh, well, of course you're looking for a Polar Seltzer.
Even a Price Chopper brand seltzer, just something. I couldn't find anything that wasn't beer or alcohol or liquor, So that, I may have missed a cooler or something. But the other thing on the spread was that I had kind of in the group chat, the strawberry cake that I make at our home matches came up. So I offered to make it and bring one for them. Like we were saying earlier, bringing a dessert on your road match.
Isn't it like strawberry upside down cake officially?
It is officially a fresh strawberry upside down cake. And I made it Thursday and I cut it up and I put it in this little disposable pan and I had it on the back seat of my car. And once I got back to the main road, and as I came around the bend, there was a big snowplow backing up from a side street. So I had to give it a little extra braking, and that cake hit the floor of my back seat, and only half of it stayed in the pan.
Aww.
So, yeah, it was a super bummer. So at the lunch break, a couple of people who happened to be in the parking lot were able to eat the cake that survived, and the rest of the cake was buried in snow in the parking lot. So RIP to half of that cake.
Oh.
It was a tragic loss, too.
So round 1, the Beasts, I see 11.5 to 4.5. Any penalty points, anything like that? That's been the theme of the night.
Yeah, the thing about penalty points is they don't really matter if the other team outscores you.
Yeah, we learned that the hard way. To the earlier conversation about putting someone's names up on the board that would have gotten awarded those 2 half points. But we had 2 guys that sat that morning and were there and could have played, but they didn't. So they, I guess, should get those 2 half points. And then we swapped 2 other guys out in the afternoon. Those 2 guys who sat out in the morning played. 2 guys who played in the morning sat out for the afternoon. And, we did all the due diligence and set it all right up right for the rule stuff. That's why I was saying I was looking at the charter.
I guess my question is, I see 11.5 to 4.5. Is that 11.5 to 5.5?
Yes, but I've kind of remembered from last year when we played them or some other team and there was issues with penalty points, Jason or Jess telling us to not add the penalty points to the points awarded for the match play, during the round, and then add it later.
Once they've officially played.
Correct.
What's the thought process going into round 2?
We need to get 12 points in order to win. We need to win a lot of matches.
Were there any threesomes?
No. Our thought was to try to split up the teams as best we could to try to win as many matches as we could and get as many points. And I thought that our best chance for that was that to have the two women play together, the wild card being, would hope that we would have gotten a matchup, not Amber being in it, but that's not how it worked. So oddly enough, though, when we get to who did score points in the doubles match, our mixed card was the one who got 2 of the points.
Shout out to Jamie and Lori Boers for getting that win. Great job.
Yep.
With a playoff, actually. One whole playoff.
Now, we didn't have a For Joe card with the North and Chatham Hill, but I see a double Evan card.
Yes.
How'd that go?
We broke up the Evan and Eric Struna card after last month. We had a good run with it, but we ran into Dave Hudson last month. So we decided to break it up and try something else. I did play with Evan Lloyd. Great teammate. Got to play against Jake Peters. I had never met him. I guess he's like a Syracuse guy. If anybody knows or has played Jake, he's a lefty. Really good player. And we didn't have some of the hottest scores, but it was close, 3 strokes, but it was a lot of pars in the middle. I had some great shots. It wasn't enough to come away with the win.
How many times have you played Burbine in the last calendar year?
Last calendar year, maybe 4 or so, including one like 2 weeks ago, practice round. I don't get out there a ton. I love that course. It's beautiful out there. It is an enchanted forest. I don't always play well because it's difficult, but I love it out there. The pond was frozen. I didn't walk on the pond. Some other people might have. I did throw it over the pond, which is exciting for me every time I do that.
Yeah.
Our double scores, we did have Tim Goyette show up. He was available for round 2, so he played with Brian Monahan.
One hole of Camel Case Corey was there.
The entirety of Camel Case Corey was in the house, and they would have beaten, I think, just about any other team except for the one that played. So, that's always unfortunate. I want to tell Randy that Willie had a great day. Willie played really well.
Yeah. He won his doubles match. He won his match.
He beat Sean D.
Yeah, Willie requested that matchup specifically. He wanted Sean.
Sean, who's like 100 rating points lower than him.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean. I love you, but...
Night at 9 pins. Somebody was telling me about that match.
Willie seems to have a history of calling out people for matches.
It's smart of him to call out people that he can beat.
He also beat the same guy in doubles, it looks like, Sean D.
Yeah, he did.
But Sean D had a partner that was like amazing. Casey Cummings. I guess he's from Syracuse and must have played the blues at Burbine.
Casey's really good too, yeah. Older guy.
Doesn't Casey have like a 3-digit PGA number or something?
Yeah.
The legend I had just heard from a reliable source, Randy, is that he's played with Ken Climo. And then Tim said in our group chat that he's the course designer for Clay East.
Sounds right.
I don't know. They told us they were going to be short, and then they were like, oh, we found some subs. And then they sent us their list, and we were like, oh, cool.
That was the inside info I had, that they were going to be 4 players short. And I was like, oh, I'll pick a team bringing a full team then.
I thought your inside info was that Sean was playing, and that's why you picked us.
That's how I found out. I went, Sean, you're playing, right? Because like a joke that they had no people. And then they were like, yeah, no, we have no one.
They started at 10 with another maybe 3 or 4 maybes. And it turned out they were 13-3. We were 16-3 ultimately.
So they got you guys 11.5 to 5.5 in round 1, and then it looks like
10 to 6.
Keeping the penalty points separate. So we took 6 points in the second half. So it's 10.5 plus 2 penalty points, 12.5.
Okay, so they got you 21.5 to 12.5?
12.5.
Okay.
Or 21.5 to 10.5.
All right, well, let's go backwards then. Tower Power, who you guys got next and when?
Alex and his crew come to us.
Yep. What's the date on that?
February 8th.
All right. What about the Widowmakers, Kristen? Who you guys got next?
We have Mind Kill at home.
Also on the 8th?
Yep, that'll be the second Saturday, yeah.
Corey, who you got next?
We host the Beasts of Burbine, I believe,
On the 8th?
on the 8th.
Do we know who's off?
February, Whips at Widowmakers, Chatham at Tower, Beasts at Wrenches, Revolution at Roses. So who do we leave out?
Yeah, February is our bye month.
North.
Our next match is in March at Minekill.
Okay. Have you done your floater match?
Yeah, we did that in October. That was at Burbine.
All right.
Yeah, officially all of the unscheduled matches have been played.
Oh, okay. Anything else that we want to mention?
Brandon Klein's Winter Battle Royale. This Sunday is going to be some of the first matches are going to be played. So I'll have an update after Sunday, but a couple of groups have agreed to kick it off.
Are you one of those groups?
I am indeed. I'm playing against Tim Goyette, so I'm looking forward to that matchup. Yeah.
Now, I looked at that bracket and I thought, I could play Tim Goyette for the right to play Evan.
I love that idea. I'll take the extra bye. Absolutely. We'll set that up right now.
Where are you guys playing?
So we agreed that we wanted to play at SPW, just kind of felt appropriate. Also geographically works out for us. We also found out that Brandon and Brian Monahan are going to play their match at SPW, which may have influenced us to also pick the same date and course. So we may kind of make a big card and see how it goes.
All right.
Shout out and let me know when you're going to be there.
I definitely might remember to think about doing that.
So the team applications for Dilicious Discs 2025 team are still open through the end of January. We are looking for anybody who is active on social media, who has a passion for disc golf, who likes to dye discs, who likes to just interact with the public. We're a really great team. We're like family. Everybody that has reapplied for the next season, they have a real passion to just be with the team even at this point. Everybody has been cheering each other on from the sidelines, and I think it's like a really supportive group of people. Ivan is always trying to do right by us, and he's always, promoting us on his platforms. He's on Instagram, he's on Facebook, he's a little bit on TikTok, as long as that's around. So if anybody is interested in something like that, we have links on our Instagram page. You could always feel free to please reach out to me if you have any questions. We're always looking for some strong female competitors. Even if you're not a strong female competitor, come to us if you're FA4 and you're just really into disc golf and really, are passionate about the sport. Ivan's been a great proponent for women's disc golf in the area as well. So, and like I said, we'll be at Disc East if anybody's going to be up there for that expo. So, come say hi to us. We'll be there both days.
And what do you got, Kevin?
SPW Dubs, March 14th, 5 p.m.
I do want to thank Brian Bickersmith, Mark Spalding, and Mike Schwartz, newest Patreon members.
Hey, yo.
So thank you, Corey, Evan, Jacob, Randy, Kevin, Alex, Kristen, and Jason. Happy birthday, Juliet and Christopher Evanchuk. And sweet up, husband.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Pat.
Pat.
Any last comments, Jason?
Thanks for having me. I also took this time to update the 2025 Minekill Disc Golf page. So that's up on Disc Golf Scene now with all the registration stuff. And
what about 2026, bro? You had plenty of time.
Maybe next Monday.
All right. Anything before you go?
No, I look forward to listening to the rest of this on Friday. I guess there's nothing going on this weekend, right?
No.
Yeah.
To give you a heads up for next week, we're doing the Ryan conversation about Empire Open. And I haven't forgotten about it. We're doing awards, Hudson Valley Disc Golf Podcast Co-Host of the Year, all that stuff next week. Oh, what sizes are left on the sweatshirts?
Thanks for reminding me. I still have some. We definitely have extra large. Anything else I'd have to check. Happy to sell them if anybody didn't get one in their extra large. All right. Thanks, Pat. Sweet up, guys.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
One more thing. I think it was last episode I listened to. Favorite part was the music. Yes. And then music. I just love that touch. That was awesome. Good job, Pat.
Oh, yeah. On the way to work this morning.
Yeah, I audibly laughed to that.
When Pat answered my rhetorical question in the editing booth, that got me too. That was so good.
More of that, Pat.
Because I answered it in my head when you said it. My wife goes, "Oh, that's why you said yes." Like I heard yes. Oh, thank you.
My actual favorite part was when Randy went, "Are we in it right now?"
Awesome. Thanks, man.